pledge. I pledge my allegiance to the flag and to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, for which it stands, one people united in love and service. You may be seated. So, this afternoon, before we really get into our program, I want to know who is here. So we're going to do a roll call. I don't know if I'm going to go in alphabetical order, but when I start reaching the end and I start forgetting, y'all shout out the islands, okay? Is Auckland here? Woo! That's me too. Is Andres here? That's me too. Actually, that's the same people. Is Cat Island here? Is anyone from Mariguana here? All right. Anyone from Inaugural here? Oh. Anyone from Crooked Island here? Oh my goodness. Okay. Next. Anyone from Elutra here? They certainly in the building. Anyone from Salvador here? Woo! Anyone from Grand Bahama? No. The Berry Islands? Am I miss Abaco? Woo! We're gonna have you up here next year. So this is what we are, a melting pot of different traditions. I told y'all, call out the names if I forgot any. Okay. Exuma. Okay. And of course, how could I? Bimini? No. Long Island? And of course, the mecca of our islands, Nassau, New Providence. Okay, so now let me get into what I was going to say. We are a melting pot of beautiful traditions and subcultures blended into one to make up the beautiful islands that are in the archipelago that is called the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. And this afternoon, as we showcase all of this beauty and talent and tradition, I ask that you will sit back, do not relax. I want y'all to sit up and pay attention, but be blessed as we present to you the family islands of the Bahamas.
Good evening, church. Happy Sabbath. It's so good to be in front of you once again. I'm so happy to be back, and you know what time it is. Can you guess? It's trivia time. Y'all didn't attend the AYS online during the pandemic. I was always the trivia girl, every AY. So we're going to do an island trivia today, in keeping up with the spirits of our theme, which is, our island. Pardon me? Thank you. So we're going to start off with our first question. Uncle Ray is going to hand out our prizes for the patriotic individuals who answers the questions correctly. So our first question is, what is the second longest island in the Bahamas? The second longest. You can raise your hand. L? Long Island? No. Elutra, yes. So Elutra is the second longest island. Yes, please clap for our contestants. The longest island is Long Island. I think it's 194 or 180, and I think Elutra is 174, so that's the second longest. Some people think Andres is the longest, but it's only 104 miles long. So this one is up for debate. But we don't have I don't think we have anybody from this island, so maybe my island would win this one. What was the first island discovered by Christopher Columbus? I saw Lawrence on first. San Salvador? Everybody agrees? We have some people who do not agree. Cat Island. So we go. So that is one of the debates that we have That's the white man history, so we've been told. So we're going to go with San Salvador for the day, but everybody knows the second island that's up for debate is Cat Island. Great. Sure, we'll go with that. What is the highest point in the Bahamas? You answer already. Philippa? Mount Alvernia. Come for your... Coming? Oh, behind me. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Yes. Does anybody know how tall or what the height is? 206. Oh, I'm sorry. 206 right in the back there. Okay, so we have another question relating to height or depth. What is the depth of Dean's Hole? Anybody know where Dean's Hole is? Long Island, yes. But what is the depth? How deep is it? Over 900? Okay, anybody in the back of me? No? So, Dean's Hole is 663 feet deep. So nobody got that one. We'll go on to the next one. This one is very interesting. What is the island with the smallest population? Lauren, you ready? Answer. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. I heard Ragged Island. Annie Trishi. So, I want to ask you how much people it is, but 10? Give them some credit, man. They have 72 people. 72. That's a lot. Huh? Okay. Okay, so I have a... How much more files do I have left? 3? So I have 3 more questions. 4 more questions, actually. Yes. So what were the 3 staple foods for the AYS? Raise your hands. 3 staple foods for the AYS. L? Pardon me? Corn and fish. 1 more. Cassava. Corn, fish, and cassava. Huh? They had pepper pot too. I was gonna get that in the thing, but I was with the cassava and the corn. So if you got 3, huh? Right. It was the combination: the cassava, corn, and what else? Pepper. What else? Turtle. What else? Iguana. What else? Okay, we'll go vegetables. But the history book says anything they could have found, they would have put in it. That's what a pepper pot was. So I have 3 more, I said. So what was the first hotel? Area? The Victoria Hotel, yes. Very good. And this one for a bag. This cute. Oh, okay, yes, sorry. So, okay, if I need it. Okay, thank you. So I have a question about coconut doobie. If you can tell me the ingredients to coconut doobie, all of the ingredients, it's about 8 of them. You get this lovely bag. You ready to answer a question? Oh. Anybody wants to give me? Look at this, Anifabia. Yes. 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 Okay. That was eight. I was putting nutmeg and cinnamon together just in case everybody don't put nutmeg. Awesome. And milk. Yeah, so that are the ingredients. Very good. Very good. So my last question, which is a little difficult, for this beautiful bag that goes with anything, really. Goes with anything. You can carry it on this side, matches. Carry it on this side during Independence. Beautiful bag. So what is the first bank in the Bahamas? And where is it found? the first bank in the Bahamas? No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Lauren? No, ma'am. Tommy? Pardon me? No, ma'am. Oh, wait. Miss Ramen? Pardon me? The post office? Yes, ma'am. So, this bank was known as government. So the bank is actually called Government Savings Bank, and it was a bank in every post office you can go to, put your money in, and save your money. So that is all. That's for my next segment. So that's all for our trivia. Thank you so much for participating. I shall be back.
Let's give it up one more time for our trivia. All right, now let's get into why you guys are really here. First up, really, I should have had a nice flowery introduction for each island, but I don't. So, welcoming first, all the way from islands in the south, the District of Michael.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Now, how much time we have? I have 5 islands, so multiply that by 15. Because somebody coming behind me who like to talk in my car. So I'm just going to wait for Terrence to find my presentation, my PowerPoint. And Michael is made up of the islands of Mariguana, Inaugural, Crooked Island, Auckland, and Long Key. Now, I'm not going to talk much about Long Key because when I look in the statistical data, Long Key was added to Crooked Island in terms of statistics. So I don't have anything that stands out, and I believe they probably are the smallest population, if there is anybody still living there today. One person, yeah. All of these islands in the southern portion of the Bahamas. My roots are in Auckland, so I will give a brief overview of the other islands and bring on Mrs. Patricia Clare to speak more about the island of Auckland's place of our ancestral homestead. So the first island up is Mariguana. Mariguana is one of the Bahamian islands which still retains its Arawak name to this day. Its largest settlement is Abraham's Bay. You see those little red things I have up there? Abraham's Bay, with 2 other substantial settlements, Betsy Bay on the coast in the east and Pirates Well in the north. The island is 110 square miles with a population of approximately 300 persons, consisting mainly of farmers and fishermen. Next slide. Mariguana is home to the Bahamian hutia. Did I pronounce that right, you historians? Okay. A rodent that was thought to be extinct until the mid-1960s, as well as Bahamian flamingos. You'll find that most of these southern islands have flamingos on them, as well as various bird species. About 118 species of birds are found on the island, including 2 large brown booby colonies. Additionally, nesting sea turtles can be found throughout the undeveloped northern part of the island, as well as iguanas. Next slide. It is also home to domestic missionaries, Mr. and Mrs. Kenneth Williams, who some years back relocated there from Nassau to bring the Seventh-day Adventist message to this far-flung Bahama island. So give it up for Mr. and Mrs. Kenneth Williams. Next slide. Inaugural. Inaugural, the song says, is what? The best kept secret in the Bahamas. Someone say that ain't so. But Inaugural is the most southerly and third largest island in the Bahamas, 596 square miles. It has one major settlement down to the bottom there. I didn't have that highlighted. Matthew Town, which was named for Governor George Matthew, who was governor of the Bahamas in 1844 to 1849, which was laid out during his tenure. It is said to be the best laid out town in the Bahamas. So y'all need to go visit Inaugural, with a population of approximately 1,000 persons. The island is home to the great, I think next slide, the island is home to the Great Inaugural National Park. This national park is home to the national bird of the Bahamas, the West Indian flamingo, which outnumbers human residents of the island 80 to 1. So if we have 1,000 residents, we have 80,000 flamingos on the island, and you would see, you see on the lower right, you see that square in the middle of the island? All of that is the national park where the flamingos and other animals and whatever lives. The wetland sites created during salt production have made this the largest nesting ground for West Indian flamingos in the Western Hemisphere. So y'all have something special in the Bahamas. It's also home to Union Creek Reserve. This reserve encompasses 4,940 acres of an enclosed tidal creek on the northwest shore of Great Inaugural. It serves as a research site for sea turtles and a habitat of protection where they lay their eggs. It's also home to the Great Inaugural Lighthouse, which is now one of the only 3 remaining kerosene-burning lighthouses in the Bahamas that has a resident lighthouse keeper who tends the flame. Salt is still the main industry on Inaugural, which is home to the famous Morton Salt Company, which is a major employer on the island. Next slide. Crooked Island and Long Key. Auckland is also up there because it seems like everybody just lumps Crooked Island, Auckland, and Long Key together. Like I could not find a separate picture of either of those islands. Crooked Island is 120 square miles. The islands were settled by American loyalists in the late 1780s who set cotton plantations using over 1,000 slaves. After the abolition of slavery, once it was no longer economical, they began sponge diving. That died off as well, and the inhabitants now live by fishing and small-scale farming. Crooked Island has among its ruins the building said to be the first post office in the Bahamas, which is located at Pittstown. Additionally, the cliffs and hills of Crooked Island hide numerous beautiful caves. Oh, next slide, sorry. That's the lighthouse, former post office, and below you will see just one of the cave formations there. It is the birthplace, next slide, of the first 2 Bahamian Seventh-day Adventist pastors, Pastors Neville Scavala and Pastors Silas McKinney. Next slide. Auckland. Auckland, 76 square miles and Auckland and Cricket Island together have approximately 750 inhabitants. It is the birthplace of Pastor Royd and Hannah, who was instrumental in starting the Seventh-day Adventist work there with his family. Next slide. Other prominent families, along with the Hannahs from Auckland, are Hastings, Tynes, Moss as well. It is also home to the Hannah Homestead at Portland, recently established. And it is also home to the Cascarilla bark industry. So I will come and ask Sister Patricia Clare to come now with further information.
Now, when you ask me to talk about Auckland, I need plenty time. All right? But I'll try cut it to about an hour, okay? That's all right? All right, let me just tell you that we just came from there. We usually travel there a lot. Auckland was the first settlers were the Kayamo Indians. And they were the first settlers there. And then up comes Dr. Chris, who said he discovered us. And what he did was he met these Indians there that actually were beautiful Indians, because he documented that the men were very handsome and the women were very pretty, and some of the characteristics were very nice and courteous and kind. But he decided he's going to take them for slaves. So he took them, and eventually they became extinct. So the Europeans now decide that they're going to come in. Now, how the Europeans basically get there, because Auckland was actually eventually like barren land almost. And what happened was during the American Revolution, and you all know what the American Revolution was. These guys wanted to actually get their independence from Britain, right? So what they did was they had a problem. They were actually living in America, but they were loyal to Britain, and that's why they call loyalists. And what happened was they needed to actually move, because they realized that they couldn't live in America and be loyal to Britain. So the king told them to listen, yeah, I got some little property down there just off the coast of Florida. You all go there. And a lot of the loyalists came and settled in Crooked Island. All right, and they bought their slaves in Crooked Island, and come to find out that Crooked Island could not sustain the cotton that they wanted to do, because Britain used to actually depend on the cotton crop. They used to farm in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina with cotton. And they wanted to continue because Britain cannot grow that cotton, but they need it for cloth and all that other stuff. So they took their slaves and decided they're going to farm down in the southern part of the Bahamas. And what happened was they find out when they reach in Crooked Island, the crop will not grow good in Crooked Island. So they decide to hop on over to Auckland, which is a short distance, only a 10-minute boat ride. And then they realized that Auckland was more favorable for growing the cotton. So they commute back and forth. Some of them stayed. And Auckland had one of the very large populace of slaves. All right? They had a lot of slaves in Auckland. We do have the little pockets like the Rollvilles in Exuma and in Cat Island. I think there's DeVos and stuff like that. But Auckland had more grouping. Auckland and Crooked Island had more grouping. So they end up settling in Auckland, where we have a number of, she talked about the Hannah Hasty Tynes. There's also the Glassglow, the Jackmo trees, the Fergusons, Cox, Bannabys. There's a lot of them that settled there, okay? And the island is very famous for, she mentioned the cascarilla bark. The cascarilla tree grows like weed all over the island. One of the reasons is because the Auckland is a very dry island. Auckland's Crooked Island, take for instance, now global warming has done a little bit of mix-up, all right? You don't know what's going to happen. Even here, you're getting heavy, heavy downfall of rain and all that stuff like that. But years ago, Auckland's will have their rainy season August, September, October. After that, you probably wouldn't get no rain until next year, August, September, October. Very little rain will drop on the island, so the casserole bark flourish. It cannot take a lot of water. So we have it like weed just popping up all over the place. We have Samana Key and another key, I forget what the key is, that's actually, you could buy it. And what they do is they actually harvest this plant, and this plant grows all over the people just go ahead and harvest them, and then they actually go ahead and soak them, put them in water, soak them for about 2-3 days. Then they will take them out and they will actually beat them. And they'll beat them, and the bark that comes off is what they use, and they pack it up and they sell it to countries like Germany, Italy, Iran, and they take them, India, and they make medicine out of them. And they also make perfume. And listen, everybody compare it. Here where your mind going, liquor. And then also there's another liquor coming out. I saw it at the Casserole Festival 2 weeks ago called Bambari. I was shocked to see that. And it's made locally, a local individual make it, and apparently it gone like that. So, well, I ain't tasting that, nobody. But I could tell you, whilst the gentleman get to roll my first film, get ready to roll my first film, but I could tell you the bark, casserole bark, is very, very bitter. It is bitter, but it's very good for persons when they have certain issues. Very good. So I just wanted the small little clip so y'all could see something about the casserole bark. Go ahead.
For decades, residents across Auckland have labored in the arduous task of stripping the bark of the casserole plant, utilizing the proceeds to support their families. With a now return on that labor, the creation of the Auckland's Islanders Cooperative Society in 2018 is being viewed as the start of a promising future to not only reduce efforts in the extraction process, but also empowering stakeholders. Chairman Philip Williamson explains, once the green light was given by officials to support the cooperative, the journey toward a robust Auckland's casserole industry took off.
All of my research showed that in the whole gamut of essential oil, casserole essential oil from Croton Elutra, which is our brand of casserole, is the second highest priced oil in the world.
Over the past 4 years, oil samples have been tested showing promising results, particularly for pharmaceuticals. Also, a test machine was acquired to show production potential.
Right now, it's only handling 10 pounds of casserole raw product. But we are looking to get like 2 machines, each one handling about 100 pounds of casserole bark at one time to produce the essential oil.
And while there are competitors promising similar value, Williamson says the cooperative remains focused on securing a buyer to ensure long-term sustainability.
The oil from the bark is good for the perfume industry. Okay, our competitors in Salvador, they produce a certain kind of casserole bark, not Croton Elutra, but they produce it, and they're now hooked up with a company in Washington State. We have a consultant who came on board, who is now going to go out there into the world and find us perfume buyers.
He laments the process has been slow, however, expediting the journey toward finalizing the end goal of a production plant on the island and supporting a 100-plus acre farm truly depends on more locals investing.
When we started this whole process, the first thing that came to my mind was, if we make life better for these folks, by paying them better, they will start cutting bark everywhere.
Okay, you can cut it off now. All right, I just wanted you to see that we're moving in the direction in Auckland, so trying to actually create a co-op that will actually produce the crop from the beginning to the end. We produce our own oil, and we now sell the oil. The oil, last time I checked, was worth $700 for 1 ounce. That's how much the oil is, but we don't do it here. We send off the bark, and those fellas over there make all the money, so we're trying to see if we could do it here. All right, so that is what he was trying to explain. He has a small machine, and we have one of the best oil in the world. Okay, now, Auckland's now have actually changed to the point where we're coming out more, and people are getting to know us more and know what's there. And one of the things that I go over there a lot for is because we have a slave plantation. My family grew up on a slave plantation, and my mom is 5th generation of the actual loyalist that came, which is John Hannah. Of course, I am 6, and Chrissy and Joni and them is 6, and LA is 7. But it was interesting to find the slave plantation, slave homes, and get all the story behind it. And I just wanted to give you a clip. There's much more I can talk about, but Monique touching her watch and telling me, so when I don't have the time to talk, I just get confused. But since, that's a problem. But if you have any questions, you could feel free to ask me afterwards. If you're interested in the co-op, you could also feel free to ask me afterwards. Just run the other film for me, please. And this is our homestead. And you can actually see that. Some people inside that film. Those of you who know us long time, you know Kathleen and Isaac. I'm pretty sure some of you are still here who know them, right? Yes, Kathleen and Isaac. There's a lot of stories that we can tell when you come up there if you want to visit us. We'll actually run you through all of the historical portions of the area. And also we have a lot of caves that you can actually visit. We have bush trails and stuff that you can visit. We also have some of those flamingos that just come over from Inaugural. They have a nesting ground there as well. We have a very nice salt pond that you can actually collect your own salt. There's a number of things that you can do. The island is fit and ripe for domestic tourists, and it's an educational island that we like to have. If you have teachers who want to bring over their children and stuff like that, there's a lot that you can learn. But yeah, so if you have any questions, see me afterward, and I can actually answer them. If you want to go, there's brochures here inside the wing, and if you want to go, just let me know. All right? Thank you.
All right. That was Auckland. And now, I promise y'all after this island, I don't even want to announce no more islands, but I have to. Next up, we have my island, where I spent plenty of my childhood days, the big yard, Andros Island.
Oh, my Andros. She makes, Andros, and we make. Oh, my Andros. She makes, Andros, and we make.
With vast, shallow surroundings in the archipelago of Andros, an experienced sailor may find himself run aground and in need of a lifeboat. Similarly, as we sail the treacherous water of this life, we often find ourselves in need of rescuing. If, for any reason, you find yourself shipwrecked on a perilous rock of life, cling to the lifeboat and pull for the shore.
You can put the slide up for me, please. Good evening again. Andros is the largest island in the Bahamas. It is 104 miles long and 40 miles wide. Andros is also the 5th largest island in the Caribbean. It lies in the Atlantic Ocean and is made up of many islets and keys. It is comprised of North Andros, Central Andros, Mangrove Key, and South Andros. The island was given the name Espirito Santo, known as the Island of the Holy Spirit by the Spanish, but it is also called San Andreas on a 1782 map. The name Andros is believed to be in honor of Sir Edmund Andros, a commander of Her Majesty's forces in Barbados and the governor of New York, Massachusetts, and New England in different years, obviously. Some also believe that the island could have been named after the inhabitants of the San Andreas Island on the Mosquito Coast, as 1,400 of them settled in Andros in 1787. There are a few facts that I want to present to you about Andros. And the first one being is that it is located 20 miles off the coast of West New Providence. It has 4 airports and 3 official points of entries. It's also said that it has 2 rivers. I was not able to find a picture because I wanted to show you, because I've told people that we don't have any rivers, but now if you go abroad, you can tell people we have rivers in the Bahamas. Where? Don't know. In Andros, somewhere, right? Okay, yes. So Andros is the home to the 3rd largest barrier reef, and Uncle Lester wanted me to say that it is also home to the 3rd largest animal in the world, because a reef is also a living creature. The barrier reef is also the 2nd largest in the Western Hemisphere, and it stretches 140 miles long along the east coast of the island, and it rims the tongue of the ocean, and it has a 6,000-foot drop-off. Next slide. The Andros Barrier Reef also houses 2 national parks, which are the North and the South National Marine Parks. They were created to protect over 8,500 acres of the healthiest parts of this reef system, and this is to help preserve and replenish the valuable ecosystem of the barrier reef. This ecosystem protects creatures such as the Nassau grouper, snappers, spiny lobster, and the queen conch. Next slide, please. The West Side National Park was established in 2002. It protects a large area of pristine coastal wetlands that are the most productive marine nurseries in the Bahamas. It encompasses magnificent pines, dense mangroves, and flat, pristine blue waters. At 1.5 million acres, the West Side National Park is one of the largest marine protected areas in the Western Atlantic. Its forest also provides a critical habitat for unique species such as the Atala hair-streak butterfly, which is an endemic species of butterflies in the Bahamas, the endangered Andres Island rock iguana, and the endangered West Indian flamingo, which we also know is found in Inaugural? That was Inaugural, right? Next slide, please. There are 178 inland blue holes on the island of Andres. And as a result, this island has its own Blue Hole National Park. And this park sits over 40,000 acres of land, making Andres a haven for avid hikers. Next slide. As mentioned, it is home to many flats and mangroves, so it is perfect for bone fishing and is known as the bone fishing capital of the world. Next slide. Morgan's Bluff is the highest point in North Andres. It is situated on the northeast coast at the tip of the island. It provides a spectacular view of the northeast and northwest Providence channels and the tongue of the ocean. It is named after the famous buccaneer/pirate Sir Henry Morgan, who used this perch to orchestrate the capture of French and Spanish ships loaded with New World treasures heading to Europe. And it is said that he hid his spoils from his plunder in the caves found in this area. So on your next trip to North Andres, find a cave, get one metal detector, and start digging. You might find some treasure. And then give you 10%, right? Amen. Next slide, right. So the Great Bahama Bank sits north of Cuba and is built up of limestone. It is built mainly from the skeleton of fragments of dead marine organisms, and this has been accumulating over 1,000 years. This bank was once believed to be dry land, but is slowly submerged as sea levels rose. And today the bank is covered by water, though it can be as shallow as 2 meters, which is also 7 feet in depth in some places. Next slide. So Andres is known for a lot of industries such as sisal, logging, and sponging. So we're going to talk about the pine forest and logging for a second. The Bohemian pine forest is made up mostly of the Caribbean pine, which is also known as the Caribbean yellow pine. This terrestrial ecosystem can only be found on 4 Bahamian islands, Andres being one of them. The Caribbean pine is a fast-growing tree that can only thrive in open areas where it does not have to compete for space with other shady trees. In order to achieve this, they use forest fires to their advantage. During the hot, dry months of the year, forest fire helps to clear out any of the unwanted competitors within the forest. So Caribbean pines, as well as the non-competitive trees in this ecosystem, are able to survive these fires due to a sap in their bark that is used to extinguish the fires. And also, if you look at the pine trees, you will notice that they don't have any leaves on the bottom of their trunk. They only have leaves up high, and this is to avoid the leaves catching fire. So in the early 1900s, the Bahamian Caribbean pine was used for commercial logging and for lumber. And it started in the 1906, I think, in Andres, but eventually, as they harvested too many pine trees, larger trees became harder to find, so they began to use the small, immature trees to ground in the pulp to make paper. Next slide. So sponging, just a fun fact, there are over 8,897 described species of sponges belonging to a certain phylum. However, in the Bahamas, we only harvest the wool sponge, grass sponge, hardhead sponge, and reed sponge. Sponging peaked in the Bahamas in the 1880s, and it continued throughout the 1930s, and the majority of the sponges came from Andros, and they were also known as the velvet sponge. However, between 1938 and 1939, there was too much sponging, and essentially the velvet sponge is actually extinct. But I believe that they are starting to pick up the sponging industry again, and I think the ones that they're using now would be the grass sponge and the hardhead sponge is what they're using. Next slide. So Mangrove Key is the boat building center of Andros and is often described as an island within an island. It is separated from North and Central Andros by straits known as the North and Middle Bight. And the key is home to approximately 800 people. Next slide. So we have some honorable mentions. Just want to mention that Andros is home to the Mennonites, which are a group of people out of the United States who have set up home in Andros to farm. They grow fruits and vegetables and make honey from bees. They also operate a carpentry shop where they build furniture and a mechanic shop where they fix cars. We also have the Red Bays, which is a village that was founded in the early 1800s by a mixed group of Seminoles, I think, and they are a Native American tribe that migrated from Florida during a great Native American war. And they also brought with them individual African descent who escaped slavery. We also want to mention that a well-known prominent individual, the former Governor General of the Bahamas, Dame Lady Margaret Pindling, is a descendant from Andros as well. Anne Celine Pindling was born in South Andros. Thank you so very much. Next slide. And finally, for my part, what would Andros be without the sport of crabbing? We have crab and dough, but oh no. Oh no. The crab season starts in May and can run until October. These land crabs spend most of their life in the Bohemian backcountry eating leaves, berries, bugs, and dead or decaying animals. But once the big first rain of the season comes, it's time for them to leave dry land and they make their way to the salt, and that's where everybody goes to get their cocoa sack bag and their flashlight and pick it up with the 2 fingers. That's how you're supposed to pick it up, with your 2 fingers on the back, or you get the broomstick and then you put it on and then you sweep it in the bag because I ain't trying to get pinched. So that was a few fun facts I had about Andros, and now we will move to Adventism in Andros. Next slide.
Okay, some information that we've gathered from about Adventism in Andros. Basically in South Andros, I apologize, but next year we'll have the whole of Andros, North and Central, yeah. The Adventist message was, we're told, that was brought to South Andros by Mr. Nathaniel Higgs. Apparently he's the grandfather of some of our very own members here. The Burroughs family, I understand. The Higgs families, yes. Great-granduncle, thank you. Yes, I have granduncle. Thank you for that correction. The great-granduncle of some of our very own Hillview members. The first church established was the Deep Creek Seventh-day Adventist Church, and then we also had the Kemps Bay Church as well. The Deep Creek Seventh-day Adventist Church was relocated to Johnson's Bay, now known as the New Macedonia Adventist Church. One of the early converts was Mr. U.B. Tooth. Is that a familiar name? Yes. He was a former government school teacher and also the grandfather of Pastor Tooth. He also established an Adventist school in South Andros, which was purported to be one of the first Adventist schools. I'm not sure if it was in the Bahamas or specifically in the Family of Islands. Family Islands, okay. And this school continued on until the early 2000s. Andros, is one of the largest family island church districts in the Bahamas, and it has produced many prominent conference workers. Obviously, some names are not included here, so please pardon. We will start with Dr. John Carey, and then we have the late Sister Eulise Forbes, Ivy Humes, Mavis DeVoe, Cinderella Kelly. We have Pastors Errol Tinker. These are alive, Pastors Errol Tinker, Jeremiah Duncombe, Michael Tu, Kenny. Then we have Kenny DeVoe, our South Conference President, Mr. Anthony Burrows, O'Kel Damascus. These are conference workers and retirees, Sister Rowena Smith, Edna Colley, some who are still in the trenches, Josette Forbes, Antoinette Wilson, well, former conference worker, Marisa Claire Wilson, Diane Jones, Violet Bowlin, Alrie Price, Delarice Hebron, and a host of others that time would not permit me to call all of the names. The leaders for many of our churches here in New Providence today have their roots in South Andros. South Andros has been pivotal in the establishment, sustainment, and the growth of Seventh-day Adventism here in the Bahamas. Next slide, and now we want to have a few tidbits on some of the delectable delights from Andros.
Good evening. I'm what you consider old people children. If my parents were alive, they would be 99 and 98, somewhere around there now. And I can ask my sister over there, my older sister, to come over here. Growing up in our home, my mother never worked. She was always a homemaker. So she did most of everything while we went to school and when we started working. But we helped in the kitchen a lot on Friday evenings in preparation for Sabbath. Sabbath was always a day we looked forward to because that's when the best was put out. And the food was great, and our house was always full on Sabbath with guests. But my mother was a bread maker. I can remember when she used to make bread with the olden days oven that was put on the kerosene stove. And she was baking bread, so a lot of people here, the older people, will know of my mother's baking. The potato bread, the corn bread, the cassava bread, guinea corn bread, everything. But nowadays, a lot of us have graduated. And she made pumpkin bread, okay? And that's one of the samples that is going to be over there for you to look at. When she made a pumpkin, when she made pumpkin bread, she grated the pumpkin and, you know, she just put everything in it. When I met my husband and started going to Andros, they were boiling the pumpkin. So now I inherited the way boiling the pumpkin because that's the way he liked it. And him one could eat a pumpkin bread in a night, him one. That's his favorite, okay? And so there's a sample over there. Don't ask me for any recipe. There's no recipe. I just mix and throw. Okay, now I do recipes when I bake cake, but not like that. And there's also a coconut bread up there. That's made from just grated coconuts and all the other stuff. And that's there for you to taste. Now, a lot of you all, when you all want tea, Y'all want Ovaltine, Milo, cocoa, and all of that? No. Daddy would say, I want some tea, go pick me a couple sour leaf, or a couple pear leaves, or cane leaves, fever grass, and, well, there's, yeah, some of the teas. Yeah, but strong bark. But I have a sample here.
I think yes.
This is fever grass from my yard, okay? And we boil this. A lot of you all heard about this because this is something that they've been using for COVID. Okay, this is fever grass. You can pass it around for who needs to see it. And then this is the spice. My husband only bought a leaf for me, for my yard, spice leaf, okay? You can smell it, it's very good. And then there's something I don't think y'all would know about. Anybody know this?
No, sir. No, Brasilita.
This is Brasilita.
Brasilita.
It's very red, but then when you let it steep, it gets blood red. And there's a sample of Brasilita, fever grass, and spice over there for you to taste. Now, this same piece of Brasilita can give you gallons of tea because you can reboil it. Okay, you can boil it, but this is very, very hard wood, so you have to really get someone who knows to chip it for you. And this comes by special order from Andres for me. Okay, so it makes a good tea. So, get up the cocoa, the Milo, the Ovaltine, and just sour leaf, cane leaves make a good tea. Pear leaf make a good tea. The fever grass, so just try to pass it around. It has no smell. So, basically, I inherit a lot of my baking from my mother because, we stood over her, we watched her on Sundays or Friday evenings, but there was no money to go to the store to buy bread and all of these things that we so often go into the food store now and purchase. So you had them, they were readily available for you to go and get, and sour leaf tea, pear leaf tea, cane leaf tea, and, with the vegetation cut down now, some of these things, you have to go so far deep in the areas to find them, But there's a sample of coconut bread, pumpkin, and tea.
One of the breads that we were accustomed to seeing our parents bake was potato bread, and they used a Dutch oven. All right, they didn't have these little tin pans like we use today. And when you go in the room, you'll see a sample of a Dutch oven in there, all right, where the potato bread is put in there and the cover's put on top, and it's put into the Dutch oven, all right, or over the fireplace, all right. As Mela said, she's the veteran now in the family with the baking. I don't do as much of it, but one of the lights that we were featured with is the coconut doobie. All right, coconut doobie. Now, the young people today call it coconut duff, but we know it as coconut doobie, all right, where you grate the coconut and you cook it down, you get your dough together, and you boil that down, and you have the best doobie in the world. And we look forward to that on Sabbaths or especially on holidays, picnics and so forth. You have your coconut doobie. Mela said something about Dad and Mom being, 99 and so forth. Dad would have turned 102 in August 4th of this year if he was alive, 102. You got it wrong. And Mother would have been 100 years old January past. Yes, but those are some of the things that we have. Some other stuff in there you will see, all right, from Andros, all right?
This fever grass is very ready for planting, so somebody who wants a piece can have it to plant in their yard. Great. No, okay. No, I got the helmet bracelet. That comes from
No, the bracelet can't go.
That's all
Thank
I have
you.
at the moment. When I get some more, I'll cut it up and give you all a little piece.
Let's give it up one more time for Andres. Yes, and moving right along swiftly, the home of Rake and Scrape and Sir Sidney Poitier. Can we guess what it is? Cat Island is next. Welcome, Namaste. Come on. Where's the Cat Island? That's what I tried to figure out. Maybe get a free put on this. Where's she going? Come, sweetie. Island.
You could go ahead. Come, baby.
Island, join the Rake and Scrape band. Cat Island, the home of Rake and Scrape. Cat Island is perhaps the most serene island in the Bahamas, with its sandy beaches, nature's preserves, and historical ruins. There are lovely beaches on Cat Island. If you notice, the sand is light pink, beautiful. Cat Island is the birthplace of the Bahamas. Indigenous rake and scrape music, and much of the country's folklore. Cat Island exudes Bahamian tradition and rustic charm. Mount Alvernia, better known to locals of Cat Island as Coma Hill, is the highest point in the islands of the Bahamas at 200 feet high. On the hill sits the Hermitage, a mineral-style monastery, hand-carved by cathedral architect and sculptor Monsignor John Hayes. In 1939, he built this miniature monastery as a getaway from the world. Looking at it from the air, we have many salt ponds in Cat Island. Cat Islanders, both young and old, still widely rely on traditional bush medicine that uses indigenous and introduced plants for medicinal purpose. Elderly Bahamians prefer these affordable and readily available treatments, as many consider them more effective than modern treatments. This beach might not be the best beach, but this is where you can see where the ocean is. The ocean is the dark blue part of the water, and this water here is very deep. So as Cat Islanders and visitors, we are aware on which beach to go when we want our privacy and when we want to really enjoy ourselves. Cat Island's pristine natural beauty has beckoned thoughtful travelers for decades. The warmth of Cat Island's people its deserted beaches and the island's serenity transcend dependency on technology. Here, you will find the simple life amidst a glorious backdrop of turquoise water and pink-hued sand. I hope you enjoy a little about Cat Island.
Now, Lauren would give you a little more on us growing up on Kid Island. So let them know what we did on Friday evening, Sabbath. You need the microphone.
Good evening. Now, I am not a big talker, but I can say something I remember. I didn't write down anything, I just wrote down some pointers. So as Adventists growing up, we were born into Adventist home. So on Friday evening, you have to have everything cooked before the sun set. If not, water straw on the fire stove, you have to have it cooked. Now, I don't know back in the day how everything kept until Sabbath and kept good. We didn't have fridge, first of all. We didn't have fridge, but the food was still good on Sabbath. The stew fish, and every Friday we have potato bread, cassava bread, flour bread, cornbread, cake, the good life. And we never used to, like the tea, Mama used to boil the tea for us. So the pot of tea, every day we have a fresh pot of the leaves. And it was one that I really like, and I can't find that tree nowhere. The little grass, the little fine flowers on the ground. I can't find that, so I never made it. But I tried to follow in Mama's footsteps. And on Sabbath time, first thing, stew fish for breakfast. Go to church. From church, we have, back then was MV, Missionary Volunteers. That was some time growing up. Now, we live in Devil's Point. And the settlement, the nearest settlement was like McCrean's, Baintown, Sonical Hill, Port Out. So AY, like long evening like this, we walk into McCrean. We have worship with the sick and short there. We pray with them. Get back home in time. They do AY, missionary volunteer work, and we have our Bible quiz. You know about that, the Bible drill? The one who finds the most chapters, the winner. Very competitive here. I always used to win. Couldn't beat me find those chapters, but yeah, that's it. And it was in our settlement, was two families, my mother and a sister. We owned the family. So when we go, we'll only church, but where we were like that, the children will come into church on Sabbath evening, to MV, and they will join in with us. On harvest and gathering time. Now, my daddy had a truck, so he never used to let us walk then. He used to take us into the settlement, drop us off, and pick us up, give us I give you an hour. So my thing used to be Sonical Hill and Baintown. My cousin used to go in Port Out. But he never take us, for some reason, he never take us to Old Bite, which was, he never took us there. But no, it wasn't far. But, no, we couldn't walk home from there. Yeah. So we go, we do our harvest and get, he give us an hour. An hour time, he'd be back for us. That was the good life. Now me, I don't do harvest and gathering. I scared to knock on people's door. So, and it's very dangerous now. Before I used to stand outside the supermarket. That become dangerous. So all we have to do is pray. So that was my little 2 cents. I didn't write down anything. So that was it. And Sister Tyler, next time, give me more than a week. I make her get up sometime. And get some more.
Thank you so much for that. Let's have another round of applause for Cat Island. We will now have a special selection by the group, the Sensationals. Please welcome them as they come. Amen, amen. Moving right along to the land of freedom. Please welcome Elutra.
Good evening. You know, because of this, I'm learning new things and new persons who are from Elutra. I was just surprised, you know, and I didn't expect to see Sharina inside here because she would have been here. She was the last one that migrated from Elutra that I am aware of, born and bred. Elutra. Elutra Island, the island of freedom. The word Elutra means freedom. The major islands of Elutra are the mainland Elutra and Harbor Island. We also have Spanish Wells. Our districts, I need to. Next slide, please. So our districts are North Elutra, Central Elutra, and South Elutra. It is about 110 miles long, and in certain areas, it's only 1 mile wide. And I've learned that the population of Elutra is approximately 11,000, last recorded in, I think, 2010. Its eastern side faces the Atlantic Ocean, and its western side faces the Great Bahama Banks. The Lucayans were the first, the Lucayan Indians originally occupied Elutra. Recorded history began on the 12th of October, 1492, when Christopher Columbus landed in the island of Guanahani, which is renamed San Salvador. Oh, we're not in agreement with that, eh? Okay. And that was on his first voyage to the new land, the new world. The earliest permanent settlers were from Europe, and that was in Elutra, where they settled in 1648. Captain William Sales and a few of his other crew from Bermuda, they left there in search of religious freedom. Along the way, they stumbled over the beautiful island, what we now call Elutra. Our settlements, can we go back to our settlements? Yes, thank you. Our settlements, they start in the north of Elutra, right? Starting with the Bluff, Upper and Lower Bogue, Current, if you can follow, Current, Gregorytown, Alistown, Jamestown, Governor's Harbor, North and South Palmetto Point, Savannah Sound, where we hail from as well. Winding Bay, Tappan Bay is where my mom is from. I just love the area. Rock Sound, Grain Castle, Deep Creek, Delancey Town, Waterford, Wimsey Spike, John Millers, and Bannerman Town. Our historical industry. Before Hawaii dominated the pineapple industry with pineapple canning companies like Dole, the Bahamas exported millions of pineapples and was the chief crop of the Bahamas. According to the Pacific industry, the history of pineapple canning in Hawaii, the Hawaiian canning pineapples had not displaced the Bahamian product from the American market. The main source of canning pineapple for the continent of America was the Bahamas, Elutra, and we exported by 1845 over 400,000 pineapples to England, and in 1885 about 1 million pineapples. Now this fellow by the name of J.S. Johnson, he was the one that was doing all of the canning in Elutra, and I think it was that those who he had employed, he didn't pay them monetarily, so he would give them something to go to the shop and redeem for their labor. And he eventually dominated that as well. So he only gave them coupons or whatever it was to shop at his place. And I think that they became disgruntled is why it went down. The canning business went down. The island was stated to have been agriculturally prosperous in the periods of 1950 to 1985. This included a large crop of pineapples for export. So today, the farmers of Elutra are small to mid-size, and most of the labor is done by hand without mechanical aid. Most farmers grow the same traditional crops like tomatoes, sweet peppers, onions, pumpkin, watermelon, just like the other islands, on a small scale. Fishing in Spanish wells. Now, if you want to hang with the big boys, you go to Spanish wells. Those fellas don't play when they fishing. They go deep sea diving. That is the way the men in Spanish well make their earnings. So basically, all of the men in Spanish well, they go out fishing. And when they come back, the catch is great. For leisure time and hobbies in Elutra, I'm very familiar with this because my mom from Tappan Bay, you'll find, I don't know if to call it leisure time because the women in Elutra, they spend time dressing their homes. So they sat to make their homes beautiful, just like Andres persons. They were home makers. Well, those from Elutra, they spend time doing a lot of handcrafts in order to keep their homes beautiful. They also, I want to talk about the other handcrafts I see my mom doing, and I don't see anybody else doing it. Something she called the Spanish work, right? And it's a needlecraft work where she sits and she picks the thread out of the material in order to whip it and make it come out. It almost looked like it was a machine-done thing. Sadly, none of her girls picked that up, right? And it's beautiful because it looked time-consuming, and I was only interested in the crocheting. Now I have mastered and surpassed my mom on that. I must brag. My mom, hailing from Elutra, is, if you come to our home any day of the week, you may find that you can get, change the slide for me, please. Any time of the week, you tell her what you want: pineapple tarts, coconut tarts, baked breads. We have issues, okay? So I don't know which island has the most diabetes, but I think that Elutra is leading, right? I remember visiting Spanish wells, going into the shop. Spanish wells have a section alone for pastries. Go big or go home, okay? Any pastry you want, you can find it in that store in Spanish wells. We have some natural scenic, next slide. You told me to raise my hand, you know. Next slide, please. Sorry, go back to the glass window bridge. One of nature's true wonders of the world, the glass window bridge, will certainly leave you breathless as you drink in the magnificent panoramic view. It is one of the few places on earth where you can compare the rich blue waters of the Atlantic Ocean on one side and the calm bite of Elutra on the other side, separated by a strip of rock about 30 feet. That is very narrow. So if you look, when there is hurricanes or storm coming, you cannot go over that bridge because the waters will wash you right off the bridge. So you have to be careful during stormy times, but it is so beautiful. You could feel your heart when you look on one side and you see that dark blue, and on the other side you see such calm, like you can go over there and, you know, get some beaching in. Next slide. The beaches of, especially Harbor Island, is the most renowned for its beautiful pink beaches. Now I see that was Cat Island that had some pink beaches. I see these pink sands sprinkled all through Elutra, because just, I was living, that's Winan Bay, where I was living first, where Gina's mother lives. So I went to the beach down there, and the beautiful pink coral in the sand, it makes you want to just collect it up and see how you could just make some money off of it, because people that, I've seen somebody use that sand to decorate nails. It was so beautiful. So there's many things that you can do with this pink sand that persons do. And in Harbor Island, you can see this pink sand for miles. It is considered one of the very best beaches in the island of the Bahamas, that is in Harbor Island. Next slide, please. Elutra's Blue Hole. I hear about 170 something in Andros. Whew. But we do have some sites with the blue holes too. If you can see there, persons are swimming and diving into these blue holes. The one on the left of you is called a Sapphire Blue Hole. That is in the north, and the other one on the right. When I went to visit that one, it just felt so spooky, because it was a big, dark area that can be found in Rock Sound. I think they said we have about 5 in total in Elutra. I'm not certain of that. 5 of those blue holes, and I didn't know that some of them could be so beautiful. I've only been to one, that was in Rock Sound. Next slide for me, please. This is the first. This is the first I'm ever seeing this. Shireen, you familiar with that? The Queen's Bath. I've been there for a few years working. I've never heard of the Queen's Bath, and I don't care if I'm going there for a day, I must go to this Queen's Bath. And this here is located, this is a hot tub located 0.5 miles just before you reach the Glass Window Bridge. I pass there often, but I never saw that. So probably because I wasn't looking for it, but I'm gonna make that one of my stops when I go back home. I can say home, right? Yes, when I go back home. Next slide, please. Everybody knows about Preacher's Cave, right? So So the story is Western sailors in the 1600s, they found this cave, but Preacher's Cave was used as a place to worship. That is why it's named that. Today, it's more known for the natural beauty than for its historic significance. And it is a popular spot for locals and tourists to visit. There are so many other sites in Elutra, but because of time, I'm being told time after Andros and takes so much time, Yeah. So we can stop there, and probably I can do better research and take up 3 and 4 hours like Andros. Okay? Yeah. But of note, in Elutra, we have 5 Adventist churches. I didn't have time to look up the history on the churches and who were the founders of the church, but we have one in the Bluff, one in Jamestown. Tappan Bay has one that was not listed on the site, and Roxanne, I think there's one in Gregorytown as well. So there's about 5 churches in Elutra, and you can feel free when you visit to call me, and I can direct you to any one of those. Thank you so much.
Awesome, wonderful. All right, so now we will move right into our next island, which is San Salvador. Give it up for her as she comes. right, I don't see her, so moving right along. Like I said earlier, the Mecca, where it all comes together. I wasn't finished my introduction. Anyway, let's hear it for New Providence.
Hi, I'm Bahama Mama from Nassau, Bahamas.
We have finally reached the part of our segment where we will be speaking about the main island of the Bahamas, New Providence. A lot of our youths, the millennials, are from this island, and many of our industrious Bahamian workers are also from this island. I will now give you a brief history of the tourism of the island of New Providence. The industry originally started with individuals making their way to Nassau to recover from a sickness. The first group of visitors were invalids. By the 1920s, things changed with the introduction of the steamship service from Miami to Nassau and the first seaplane service introduced in 1929 by Pan American Airlines. So you know that this changed the way that tourism was introduced to us. More people could come back and forth to the island of New Providence, and they were able to access us better. The first hotel to be built in Nassau was called the Royal Victoria in 1861. Other hotels built later included Montague Hotel, the British Colonial, Emerald Beach Hotel, and so on. The history of banking. The first bank in the Bahamas, as previously stated during the trivia game, was called the Public Savings Bank. The first foreign bank was the Royal Bank of Canada, which was later followed by Scotiabank, and you can still see some of these banks around today. There are several Bahamian-operated commercial banks found in New Providence. The main objective is to provide services to the Bahamian public. Examples of these banks include Bank of the Bahamas, BOB, Commonwealth of the Bahamas Bank, COB. Main banks that control the operations of all commercial banks in the Bahamas is the Central Bank of the Bahamas, first started operations on June 1st, 1974. The Central Bank fills their traditional role as issuers of legal tender, bankers to both domestic banks and the government, and regulators of all financial affairs. The history of Junkanoo, something that we all know and love. Junkanoo was named after the West African slave John Canoe, and it became a cultural festival across the West Indies islands. The festival originated in the Bahamas around the 17th century as a masquerade. Slaves with their faces were hidden under flour paste and celebrated on Boxing Day and the day after Christmas. Today, Junkanoo, a Bahamian national festival, is a kaleidoscope of colors and sound. The rhythmic sounds of cowbells, goatskin drums, and whistles, accompanied by an array of brass instruments and many more instruments. The festivity was celebrated primarily during the slave feast, or days off to reconnect with their cultural traditions from the motherland. The central government in New Providence. The Constitution, or Supreme Law of the Bahamas, is based on the Westminster model. Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. In Nassau, the legislature contains the House of Assembly and the Senate, and it makes up the law body of the Bahamas and the government. The main government, known as the central government, is found on the island of New Providence, and the House of Parliament, or the House of Assembly, is located on Rawson Square. There are many icons that come from the Bahamas, but in particular, Nassau. Claudius Roland Walker, MD, was born and lived most of his life in Baintown. He was born the 6th of May, 1897, and he was an only child. His parents were Claudius F. and Patience Walker, nee Robinson. He was an accomplished musician who played the organ, piano, and double bass, and he was a linguist who spoke Spanish, French, and German. He also taught mathematics and established the Bahamas Technical Institute, an evening school for adults. C.R. Walker Senior High School is named in his honor. Dame Doris Johnson was a Bahamian teacher, suffragette, and politician. She was the first Bahamian woman to contest an election in the Bahamas, the first female Senate appointee, and the first woman granted a leadership role in the Senate. Once in the legislature, she was the first woman to be made a government minister and then was elected the first woman president of the Senate. Adventism in New Providence. In 1893, 2 Colporteur missionaries from New York, C.H. Richards and his wife, arrived in Nassau, Bahamas. The field was first called the Bahamas Mission of Seventh-day Adventists, then Conference, because the field included all the islands of the Bahamas. Upon the arrival of Richard, the population of the country was estimated at 50,000, and he reported that Nassau, so far as we know, fully understands and obeys the Sabbath truth for this time. After 3.5-day voyage, they sowed the seeds of Adventism via the printed page. From this humble beginning, the church in the Bahamas began. William Charles Antonio, a shoemaker, and his wife, Mary Catherine Antonio, were the first Bahamians to accept the Seventh-day Adventist message. Their eldest child, Evangeline, became one of the first Bahamian Bible workers in the Bahamas. She was an instrumental person in helping raise several Adventist churches on a few islands like Elutra. Pastors Silas N. McKinney and Neville E. Scavella were the first Bahamians to train for the ministry. In 1956, upon completing their theological studies, they were employed by the Bahamas Mission. Centerville Seventh-day Adventist Church is the oldest Adventist congregation in the Bahamas, having officially started in 1911. And today, the Seventh-day Adventist Church is the 4th largest denomination in the country.
Amen. Thank you guys so much for being attentive. That brings us to the end of our program this evening. And so right now I'd ask if we all please stand. As we close, please bow your heads in prayer. Dear Father in heaven, we thank you once again for allowing us to see another day and for bringing us safely to the end of another week. I thank you for this awesome program that was put on this afternoon. Thank you for the beauty that you have given us that we may be able to share with one another. I ask now that as we go throughout the rest of our week, we would stay on our high from today, but continue to live out our lives so that people may see you through us. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. Now, just 2 very important things before you move. One, our Family Island presenters have put up very gorgeous, beautiful displays over here. And so when you're done, please move right into here. I even heard there's some samples in there as well. Secondly, if your car is parked on the eastern side of the church, can you please move it? SPC Youth Sports are getting ready to start volleyball, and they need that area cleared to set up the volleyball nets. So if you're parked on this side, I would advise just pulling your car around and then coming inside to enjoy and look at the displays. Also, Pathfinders resumes tomorrow morning. And join us, the young people here at church, on Sabbath coming for our Operation Breakout service. You don't want to miss it. Thank you, guys, and have a great rest of the week.
1, 2, ready.